the Ways and Means Committee. It is Thursday, April 2nd still, and it is 2:30. And we are taking our first walkthrough of page 955 with Beth St. James. We are grateful for her service and that she's with us today. What I would like us to do today is to really just walk through the bill. If folks have brief clarifying questions, that is great. We can do them at the end of sections. But we are really just seeking to understand. Tomorrow, we will have more time with the whole staff crew and the language to go deeper into understanding and opinions. Sound like a plan? Great, thank you. Beth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. There's a significant portion of this bill that is words interpreting maps. How much time would you like, how would you like me to address that?
The words describing maps.
Yes. Skip over it, mention it.
You could say, these words describe this map and then.
Okay, great. Okay. But do you want to go into the membership details of these groupings?
I think just showing us the map would work.
Oh, the map. Oh, okay.
So that you don't.
Well,
have
I
to use
didn't make
words.
the map, so let me see. Is it, let me see, it's the map that is posted, there is one. Okay. I'll figure it out in real time.
And I'm sorry you have had no time to like process since the second before re-presenting. I don't know, that's a hard thing. That would be a hard thing for my brain, so I appreciate doing it.
My pleasure. Okay. I will pull up maps when we get to that language, and I will point out what has changed.
Thank you.
Goodness, it should be fresh.
Should I post all the maps around the LSAT page from John Adams?
Yes, I would say, well, I'm not the chair.
Whatever she says.
I'm only gonna refer to the map that says districts with seesaws map,
Okay.
but I do think they're all three are relevant.
I think just the one that Beth is referencing.
All right.
It is a hybrid of the other two,
Perfect.
but it is not accurate, so
Even better.
I'm just gonna work with it.
Okay.
Okay, am I sharing my screen? I'm not.
Not at present.
Okay. This is, we're gonna skip over, statement of purpose.
Oh, no. Let's do the whole.
Why?
We're getting a little late here.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Now.
We do want to know why we're doing it.
You have no say over this language. Why do you care? It's an area of control.
I don't know what you think. There you go.
I'm so happy to be back with you all.
We're so happy to have you here.
This bill proposes to, one, rename boards of cooperative education services to cooperative educational service areas, BOCES to seesaws. Get used to it.
We even actually voted on it once. We voted yes on this move once.
That's right. Oh, you've already seen this.
We have
That's
seen
right.
that part, yeah. We saw.
Okay, seesaws.
That is funny though.
Assign each supervisor, so the bill proposes to assign each supervisory union to a seesaw. It proposes to require all school districts to participate in a study committee to study the advisability of forming a unified union school district. It proposes to amend the contingent effective dates of Act 73. And it proposes to require JFO to hire a contractor to make recommendations regarding how to account for the provision of pre-kindergarten education within Vermont's education finance system. And it is entitled An Act Relating to Next Steps in Transforming Vermont's Education System. Reader assistance headings are going to be particularly helpful. Starting with section 1, legislative intent. Do you want to read through this line by line or just know there is intent?
We would like to read that.
Subsection A, to ensure each student is provided substantially equal educational opportunities that will prepare the student to thrive in a 21st century world. It is the intent of the General Assembly to work strategically, intentionally, and thoughtfully to ensure that each incremental change made to Vermont's public education system provides strength and support to its only constitutionally required governmental service. Where have you seen this language before? There you go. It's right out of Act 73. The General Assembly recognizes that Vermont schools anchor local economies and community identity, connecting young people to their homes while supporting workforce development and long-term stability, and that different regions of Vermont have different needs, challenges, and opportunities. Further, it is the intent of the General Assembly to ensure that local voice and community input retain an important role in Vermont's evolving education landscape. New reader assistance heading, cooperative educational service areas. So sections 2 through 12 are the sections 2 through 2 through 12 are the sections you pulled out of the miscellaneous education bill that changed BOCES to seesaw. But this bill also makes additional changes. So just know anywhere that there was the term BOCES or the term Board of Cooperative Educational Services, that term has been replaced with cooperative educational areas or seesaws. I'm only going to talk about the specific substantive changes that education made to these pieces of current law. So remember, we're in chapter 10 of Title 16, our seesaw laws. The policy was kind of drafted. You'll see when we get to section 603, current law, seesaw formation is voluntary. There's no mandate that anyone form a BOCES or a seesaw. Section 603 of this bill mandates that formation. In fact, it puts it into statute. You are creating seesaws in statute. So we had to play with some of the language in the policy area because we're no longer allowing and encouraging folks to get together and form these voluntary organizations. It is now the policy of the state to create cooperative educational service areas. And then the formation of a Board of Cooperative Education Services shall be designed to, again, there's no organic voluntary process happening anymore. So the language is just changed to reflect the intent of the General Assembly that cooperative educational service areas are utilized by member SUs to maximize the impact of available dollars through collective funding, reduce duplication of programs, personnel services, contribute to the equalization of educational opportunities for all pupils. So the basic policy there has not changed. And so we're in the definition section 602. Adding a definition for cooperative educational service area means an association of supervisory unions created pursuant to this chapter to deliver shared programs and services to complement the educational programs of member SUs in a cost-effective manner. A seesaw shall be a body politic and corporate with the powers and duties afforded it under this chapter.
What does that sentence mean?
Same teas on that question.
Yeah. The last sentence.
It is legalese. Essentially, this is the language we use when we're creating political subdivisions of the state, essentially. So you'll see this language related to school districts. You'll see it relate, so in the union school district formation chapter 11, which we're going to talk about extensively. You'll see that when a new union school district is formed, it shall be a body politic and corporate with the powers and duties afforded it. It is an entity. It is a political subdivision of the state. I cannot get any more specific than that.
Does it have any powers and duties beyond what's afforded
No.
for the chapter?
No.
Okay, great. Representative Odie.
Do its decisions have the force of a law, like a school district's school policies?
School policies, I would say, are not the law. They're still just the policies of the school.
I knew after I said that would be right. I say, all right, do they have any sway outside of.
They have not been given rulemaking authority. I think once we walk through a little bit of what they are, it might help a little. Okay, so section 603, I'm on page 4. All of this language that was struck through was how to form a BOCES under current law, but it's no longer a voluntary process, we're creating it. So establishment of cooperative educational service areas, jump down to line 15. Supervisory unions are arranged into the following cooperative educational service areas. And this is where I'm going to refer to a map. So what the next several pages do is there's a subdivision 1 through 7. Each subdivision 1 through 7 has a name. So for example, number 1 is the Champlain Valley North Seesaw. Is formed of the member supervisory unions of, and then under each seesaw will be their member supervisory unions, because membership on a seesaw is at the supervisory union level, not the school district level. And we also list the member school districts of the supervisory union. So it's one-stop shopping. If you only know what school district you're on, you wouldn't have to then figure out your supervisory union. It's all there.
And it's not a geographically bounded, it's an organizationally bounded.
I don't think I understand what you mean.
So if the Franklin Northeast Supervisory Union suddenly, I know this is not going to happen, included the town of Hartford, that town of Hartford would be part of the Champlain Valley North Seesaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And it would only happen if the General Assembly takes action because you've set these boundaries in law.
That include the sub supervisor,
Yeah.
underneath supervisors.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Maybe, this is obvious, but following your question about Hartford and Northwest Supervisory Union. Hartford in this theoretically part of the seesaw, but being part of quite a different school district.
Yeah, I was just picking a random town. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So the seesaws you will see on this map. Oh, I don't have up. That's good. You can see the blue
We're
bar.
gonna take a little breathing break.
This draft, map draft 21.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, they're posted under John Adams' name.
Just.
Sure. That's kind of nice.
Whose knows this?
Do you have more chocolate in your pocket?
No, maybe reloaded those.
No, thanks.
Oh, hey, we got one this one.
Okay, here we go. So this map shows you two things. And it's wrong.
Okay, good place to start.
I can't even begin to explain to you the process that it took to create this. There is a new map coming that will be in alignment with the language. I would encourage you not to pay any attention to the District 13, District 17. First of all, the use of the word district is part of the software. And then the numbers are a little off. But what you are looking at, and I'll zoom out so you can see the whole thing. What you are looking at is those black dotted lines, those thick black dotted lines are the seesaw boundaries. They keep supervisory unions intact. With one exception, and we'll get there. The colored chunks within those black boundaries are what this bill refers to as guide regions for facilitators to use to form study committees later on in the bill.
So those are sort of recommended districts.
Recommended guides.
Yes.
For the facilitators to use to form those study committees, yes, they are just recommendations.
And the
And
colors within the black.
the colors within the black.
Okay.
And this area right here is the Orleans West or Southwest. It is the, if you don't have one of these, you're gonna need one. It is the Orleans Southwest Supervisory Union, this blue, this pretty blue right here. That is actually, should be brown to go along with this area.
And the gray ones are the interstate districts.
The interstate districts belong to a seesaw, but they do not belong to a region for which a facilitator would be making study committees.
That was Hartford, part of yellow, but part of it.
Ah, that is what we are getting to. Okay, so. You have one BOCES in existence now. It is the Vermont Learning Collaborative. It is made up of the member supervisory unions of Mountain View SU, Springfield SD, Two Rivers SU, Wyndham Central, Wyndham Northeast, Wyndham Southeast, Wyndham Southwest, and Windsor Southeast. This was a voluntary process. The Vermont Learning Collaborative, as we keep walking through this draft, is going to play an integral role in hiring the facilitators that will be forming all of those study committees, facilitating the study committees, and overseeing the study committees. If you changed the membership of the Vermont Learning Collaborative, then you would essentially be creating a brand new entity. And you would be running into a time crunch with who would be doing the work to hire the facilitators, because there would be no entity already formed to be hiring the facilitators.
Hartford's not part of it currently.
Hartford is not part of the Vermont Learning Collaborative currently. So this bill keeps their membership the same and assigned Hartford to a different seesaw.
Future.
In the future, that could change. And I have already received feedback and anticipate strong thoughts on some of the appropriations that we're making later on in the bill. And I'm already working through different contingency plans, but I do think it behooves you to keep BTLC intact, what you are asking them to do throughout the bill.
Folks ready to move past this chunk of language?
Yeah.
I imagine we're all going to spend a lot of time looking at the map. Yes.
I have a question to put out that you can answer.
Is it, whoa. I really want us to keep us clarifying questions about the language in front of us, and we will get curious about the meaning of it all tomorrow.
But we will, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're jumping out of the seesaw region formations. And we're going to, no longer would they be creating articles of agreement, because it's not a voluntary process, so who knows if there's agreement, it's bylaws, we're talking bylaws. The requirements for the bylaws remain largely exactly the same, except on page 12, we're repealing the requirement that bylaws include a method for termination of the BOCES and the withdrawal from member supervisory unions, because these are now statutorily created bodies and only you can change membership. And it's the same concept for admitting new members. Board of Directors remains the same as in current law, and we've repealed the language that does not allow for any more than 7 BOCES statewide. Although that's the magic number that this bill arrived at anyway. Section 604 is the last section I'm going to talk to in the BOCES section, because it's the last section with a substantive change. This is the powers of seesaws. This bill adds some, so current law basically just says you have, the power to provide educational programs, services, facilities, and professional other staff that serve your members. This bill adds some more specificity to what those services should be and then what those services have to be. So should be on line 16, page 13, including professional development, curriculum coordination, development, and transportation. And then on lines 20 and 21, at a minimum, a CSAW is required to offer services in the following areas to its members. Special education, including implementation and maintenance of tiered systems of support and the provision of low incidence, high cost services, business and administrative services, and union school district creation, consultation, and facilitation.
Sorry, but at some point, do we hear what the amounts are that we are gonna pay for this, all that?
Yes, but it's the very end.
And just so I'm clear, when you say business and administrative services, are you saying that all business and administrative services go through the CSAT, or that's just there's like another layer potentially of business and administrative services, and some of the things that districts are doing now like go through the CSAT, or are you saying they're doing all of it?
So if we look at page 13, lines 20 and 21, at a minimum, a CSA shall offer services. So I think just as it says, like, here are some things we can do for you. Would you like to buy these services? And then that's the last substantive change in all of this seesaw language. So I'm going to take us right to,
Representative Muslim.
So clarify, we said, would you like to buy these services?
Mhm.
You, what does buy mean?
just that.
Okay,
Cease, the way that the current law operates, and it hasn't been changed here, is that they are funded through fees for services,
gotcha.
and then they can decide if they're going to charge member dues.
This is with the facilitator or something that they're working out with.
No, the facilitator comes into play in a little bit.
Okay,
They are hiring facilitators.
thank you.
Section 4 on page 19 amends the Seesaw grant program. So currently it's the BOCES grant program, and it's a startup grant program. You appropriated $70,000 in 2024 to AOE for startup grants to BOCES as they came to be. There's only been one BOCES formed. There is still $60,000 to my knowledge within the Agency of Education for these startup grants. $60,000.
Thank you.
Current law is that a BOCES or Seesaw is only eligible for a $10,000 startup grant. This bill amends that to $15,000. It's the original appropriation the same. There's $60,000 left of that. And so they added an appropriation of $30,000 from the general fund to provide additional funding for the Seesaw grant program. So that's 6 times 5. Yep, because you already have one Seesaw that's already up and running that would not be eligible for the startup grant. And then we're gonna jump to section 12. Everything that I've skipped over is just the name change from BOCES to Seesaw. Everywhere it appears in the VSAs. Okay, section 12, I'm on page 25, line 16. This language, or I should say this concept, I borrowed from how supervisory unions get started. So within 30 days following the passage of this act, each member SU board of each Seesaw, so the supervisory union board of the SUs of according to their Seesaw membership, have to appoint a person to serve on the board of directors according to applicable law. And then within 45 days following the passage of the act, the superintendent of the SU with the highest aggregate average daily membership of each CISA calls the first meeting to occur. They elect a chair and other necessary officers, and then they're off to the races. And then subsection C, I hope, is meant to clarify that the Vermont Learning Collaborative doesn't need to do any extra work related to their operating agreement. So the articles of agreement of the Vermont Learning Collaborative in effect on June 30th, 2026 shall serve as the operating agreement of the VTLC unless and until amended.
Isn't that saying it's the existing agreement is the existing agreement?
Yes. So because you are essentially adding them to a list of state-created entities, I am basically trying to say through this language, at the direction of the House Education Committee, that they don't need to change what they're doing just because we've now changed how BOCES or CSAWs are formed.
Okay, all right.
They can keep going.
Yeah, got it.
So how many districts are in a seesaw? Does that vary?
It varies, and membership in a CISA is at the supervisory union level, so the number of supervisory unions vary. And then the number of districts within those supervisory unions will vary.
Well, how many people are gonna be on the board?
Each member, let's see. Do you want me to go into this much? Wait, so, okay. I'm gonna go all the way back up to 603. So this is current, this is all current law. Board of Directors. CSAC shall be managed by a board of directors, which shall be composed of one person appointed annually by each member SU board. Appointed persons shall be members of a member SU board or the superintendent or designee of the member SU. So one person from each member supervisory union,
Not district.
but not at the school district level, correct? Yep.
So potentially, there'd only be a few people. Is that right, or am I mis?
Well, if we look at the map. See, this map is not arranged by supervisory unions. There's
Okay.
another interactive map that if and when you would like me to, we can use that lists out the SUs. There's 52, let me put it this way, there's 52 supervisory unions in the state and there's 7 CSAWs.
Okay. Well, that's a good start, thank you.
Okay. We are about to move out of the CISA reader assistance heading into the Union School District Exploration and Formation reader assistance heading. Are we ready? Yes.
I'm sorry. The members of the CSAW board, are they board members of the supervisory union?
Yes.
Can they be appointed by the board of the supervisory union, but not on the board of the supervisory union?
Go back up and look at the language. Okay. There's options. So one person appointed annually by each SU board. Appointed persons shall be members of the board or the superintendent or designee of the member supervisory.
And they shall not serve as a member of a board of directors or of any related for-profit or non-profit organization.
Correct.
What is related in this context?
I think, as you know, I cannot breathe life into legislative intent. That is for you all. I believe the original thought behind that was if you are a cooperative service agency providing services having a board member on the seesaw who's also a board member on maybe somewhere where there would be a business relationship, a nonprofit where there would be a business relationship between the seesaw and the nonprofit to provide services to its members. That might create a conflict. But it doesn't say that explicitly, and so related, I believe, is an ambiguous term.
There could be a payroll vendor.
A payroll vendor, although I believe it says nonprofit, I guess if it's a nonprofit. Oh, a for-profit too, yep. Yep, I believe this is meant to get at conflicts of interest.
Okay, thanks.
So the next big concept in
I have
this,
one more question.
Okay.
A school would not be a nonprofit or a for-profit entity.
well, if you are a member of an SU board, you
Then
are
you'd have
also a
to
member
be
of
a
the school board, so.
Okay, thank you.
But that does get to the ambiguity of the term related. Okay, so the next big concept we're gonna talk, I'm just gonna, kind of just generally talk about the concept we're gonna walk through to orient you. So the next several sections, everything under this reader assistance heading has the Vermont Learning Collaborative, your only current living BOCES, now Seesaw, hiring facilitators to work within one of the Seesaw regions, so assigning one facilitator to each Seesaw region, and then grouping the school districts within their assigned region into study committees, and using current law to drive the study committee process to study whether is it advisable for those school districts on that study committee to form a new unified union school district. So it's requiring school districts to come to the table, and then it relies largely on current law for how that process unfolds. But there are extra provisions built in the next several sections. So on or before October 1st, 2026, VTLC shall employ or contract for the services of 7 union school district formation facilitators, because we have 7 PSAs, who shall be responsible for organizing and facilitating study committees to study the advisability of forming a unified union school district. The term unified union school district is important here. There's several different types of union school districts. And the study committees that we are going to talk about as being a requirement for school districts to participate in, what they are supposed to be studying is whether it's advisable to form a unified union school district. Not a union elementary school district, not a union high school district, unified union school district. There is a way for them to study that, but we haven't gotten there yet. VTLC shall also hire 1 lead facilitator who, in addition to facilitating study committees as necessary, shall oversee the work of the 7 facilitators. So 8 facilitators in total. A facilitator shall have knowledge of and experience working in Vermont's public education system. The VTLC shall assign 1 facilitator to each Seesaw membership region created through what we just walked through at the very beginning, the 7 Seesaw regions. And then we start the study process. And I do, when and if you get there, I do have a single document with the timeline of all of this. Which probably needs to be updated, but it exists. So on or before December 1st, 2026, 2 things need to happen. The facilitator needs to group school districts within its assigned region onto study committees. The facilitator is required to consult with the school district boards finalizing the study committee membership. And the facilitator is required to use the suggested groupings as guidance when making the study committee assignments. The suggested groupings in section 17 are those colored areas we were looking at on this map. And there is a whole section that lists all of the towns and school districts, et cetera. And so the facilitator is required to group school districts according to the following criteria. Total average daily membership of school districts forming a study committee shall be a minimum of 2,000 students as practical. School districts shall be contiguous. And school districts on the same study committee may be members of different SUs. The second thing that needs to happen on or before December 1st, 2026 is that each study committee has to hold its first meeting.
Two totally separate, unrelated questions. One is who supervises the facilitator, who supervises the facilitators?
BTLC would be holding the contracts.
And the contract goes from the state directly to BTLC.
Yeah, I think this is the area that we need to work on.
Okay. And then I'll hold the other question for tomorrow. Question, please.
Why, you might have said, sorry, why is VTLC holding the contract?
That is a question for your colleagues in the House Education Department. That is a policy choice they made.
Thank you, that's it.
Okay, so December 1st, 2026. Study committees have formed and they've held their first meeting. Notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary, school districts are required to participate in the study committee assigned to it.
What's that mean?
Means you gotta come to the table and have a conversation. And there is language in there about what happens if your conversation falls apart. A study committee formed pursuant to this section shall adhere to the processes and requirements of 16 DSA Chapter 11, Subchapter 2, which is current law in Title 16. Chapter 11 is your union school district governance chapter. Subchapter 2 is the exploration and formation subchapter. So current law is, this was the first bill I worked on in this job, and what a nightmare it was rewriting Chapter 11. And I'm very grateful for that experience now. It wasn't actually me who did it, it was Donna Russo Savage, but it was the first bill I shepherded through the legislature. Chapter 11 is very specific in the processes that need to happen for both the conversations and processes that need to happen to study formation of a union school district, to create a union school district, and then once it's up and running, how to govern the union school district. So subchapter 2 is the exploration and formation subchapter. So I'm going to guess that many questions you may have about processes is in current law. A study committee formed pursuant to this section may identify necessary or advisable school districts. So necessary school districts and advisable school districts are defined terms in Chapter 11. Necessary means a school district has to be a part of the union school district in order for it to form. Advisable means it'd be nice if you joined us, but we're going to form anyway, regardless. So the study committee can form pursuant to the section. The facilitator puts them together, they start their work. They may realize, hey, in order for this to really work, we think it's necessary for you to join us, and it would be nice if you joined us. So they can make those determinations once they're underway, and they can pick out necessary or advisable school districts that are not members of their study committee and are not members of the seesaw, or both, and they would work with the facilitator to adjust study committee membership as necessary. This is language that is meant to allow for enough flexibility. The requirements that the facilitators are required to follow is providing the facilitators with enough direction to form study committees while meeting your intent. And then this language is meant to say, what if you start working, you realize that there were circumstances that the legislature didn't anticipate and factor into this guidance? Hey, facilitator, you can adjust the study committee membership.
Is contiguousness still required?
I would say that is not addressed here, so no. Notwithstanding some current law language related to study committee budgets, a study committee formed pursuant to this section shall be funded through appropriations made by the General Assembly for this purpose. Provided, however, that if a study committee's needs exceed the appropriations provided, it may revert to current law and follow the budget process. So current law budget process for a study committee for a union school district study is everyone kicks in, all of the school districts on the study committee kick in their fair share, and it's prorated according to your ADM. There's actually some outdated equalized pupil language still in there, but we'll say ADM. If the budget is less than $50,000, you do not need voter approval. If it's more than $50,000, you actually need voter approval for that budget. So this language is saying, we're going to give you some money. We're also going to give you a facilitator. If you need more than what we have given you, then you got to follow current law for how you get that money. In addition to the requirements of Chapter 11, Subchapter 2, a study committee shall also explore the advisability and feasibility of a contemplated new unified union school district operating a regional, middle, or high school, or both. A regional, middle, or high school contemplated pursuant to this section shall offer resident students increased educational opportunities and access to career technical education.
Is that written in a way that it'll still allow for 2 union high schools in one of the new districts, or is it limiting it to 1?
I don't think it limits it in any way. It's just a contemplation. Subsection D is what needs to be in a report. So under current law, study committees, if they determine that it is advisable to propose formation of a new unified union school district, then they have to draft a report. And so subsection D is saying, if the study committee formed pursuant to this section determines it is advisable to propose formation of a new unified union school district, then the current law reporting requirements are triggered. And also they need to add the following information to their final report. An analysis of the following: educational advantages and disadvantages likely to result from the formation of the proposed unified union school district. Financial advantages and disadvantages likely to result from the formation of the proposed unified union school district. The likely operational and financial viability and sustainability of the proposed unified union school district, and anything else. That all needs to be in the final report if a study committee thinks it is advisable to form the new unified union school district. Subdivision E is what needs to be in a report if the study committee finds that it is not advisable to form a unified union school district. So before they vote to dissolve on the study committee, they have to prepare a report with the following details: the names of the school districts participating in the study committee and whether the participation was formal or informal. An analysis of the strengths and challenges of the current structures of all necessary and advisable school districts. The reasons why formation of a new unified union school district would be inadvisable, with specific references to any state law or rule the study committee found to be an impediment to the formation of a unified union school district, with specific analysis of why such rule or law is an impediment. And if the decision of the study committee was not unanimous, an analysis of the minority view of the committee outlining the ways in which a unified union school district promotes the state policy set forth in section 701 of this chapter. I shall also say in subdivision D, along with the reporting requirements, if a study committee determines that it is advisable to propose formation of a new unified union school district, they also have to formulate articles of agreement. So in addition to the report, the articles of agreement are going to have a whole load of information on, membership and all kinds of things. But obviously, if the vote is that it is inadvisable, there's not going to be any articles of agreement. Okay, so we're still in the inadvisable reporting world. The study committee is required to transmit its report to the school board of each school district that participated in the study committee, which is the secretary, the state board of education, and the facilitator or facilitators assisting the study committee. And here is language that I was alluding to. Members of a study committee that determines it is inadvisable to propose formation of a new unified union school district may form a new study committee or committees and may pursue any union school district formation option available under current law after the study committee members vote to dissolve the study committee formed pursuant to this section. So theoretically, facilitator could group folks together. They sit down, they decide at their first meeting, there's no way this is happening. They write the report, they dissolve the study committee, and they go on their separate ways. They could do nothing, or they could come back to the table or form different study committees and use current law to study the advisability of forming whatever type of school district they want to form. Okay, so this is language applicable to all study committees, regardless of whether they have found that it is advisable or inadvisable. On or before December 1st, 2027, each study committee is required to complete its final report. So this draft or this bill gives them a year to do their work. And transmit that report along with proposed articles of agreement as applicable to the school board of each school district that the report identifies as either necessary or advisable, if the study committee determined it was advisable, or to the school board of the participating school districts if it was determined to be inadvisable to form a new school district.
Clarifying financial question. If the group meets and there's two scenarios, either quickly or halfway down the road, decide that it's not gonna work. I presume they can sort of claw back the money that's not spent. Can they get any more? But to work
Who
things.
is they in this scenario?
Okay, so what the study committee meets.
Mhm.
And they have a facilitator and they get, and there's money that fee for service, as you said, it's gonna be, money's gonna be.
The facilitator is hired by a separate entity
Okay,
and is not part of the study committee budget.
okay. But the study committee, well, it'll become apparent, I guess, over time, but I'm concerned about there being money not spent, not wasted, that kind of stuff like that.
There is an appropriation for study committee budgets and it is a reimbursement model.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Good enough for now. Very good, actually. Thank you.
So school boards of all of the study committees are now looking at the reports of the study committees. They have until February 1st, 28 to complete their review. The next step along the way in current law is that if a study committee determines that it is advisable. So if the study committee determines it's inadvisable, the report goes to the school districts and then the process in this bill stops. So now what we're talking about is only study committees that determine it is advisable to form a new unified union school district. So the next step is that the report and the proposed articles of agreement go to the secretary for review. And this bill gives the secretary 60 days from receipt or no later than April 1st, 2028 to complete the review of the report and the proposed articles of agreement and send it to the state board. If the secretary fails to submit the report and the proposed articles of agreement within those 60 days or before April 1st, whichever date occurs first, then the study committee kind of bypasses the secretary and goes straight to the state board. State board findings. The state board shall issue the findings required in current law on or before June 1st, 2028. Vote to form a unified union school district. If a study committee formed pursuant to the section determines that it is advisable to propose formation of a new unified union school district, the voters of each school district that is identified as necessary or advisable shall vote whether to form the proposed union school district in accordance with current law on or before November 7th, 2028, which is election day 2028. So the vote could happen anytime before then. That's the last day that it should be happening. That's a long ways away. So you're gonna get a status report in February of next year on what's happening. So the AOE is required in consultation with the facilitators to submit a written report to the House and Senate Education and Money Committees with information regarding the membership and status of each study committee formed pursuant to this section. So you should know by February, what is the makeup of these study committees and what's the status of them. Section 14 is another mapping section. So this is guidance for study committee groupings. Facilitators shall use the school district groupings contained in subdivisions 1 through 21 of this section as guidance when forming study committees. Facilitators may form study committees that differ from the guidance contained in this section, but they have to explain their rationale to the lead facilitator so that the lead facilitator can include that rationale in a final report back to you all. And then we have groups. So groups 1 through 21 are school districts listed. And that's the colored areas on this map, with the exception of this blue periwinkle, whatever we're gonna call it, color, should be part of this brown color. And this is just guidance. And so that's like groups 1 through 21, that's what the words represent, is this. There are some school districts, or there are some groups that are single school districts. Just as an FYI. Okay. Study committee results and analysis facilitator report, section 15. I'm on the very top of page 36. On or before January 1st, 2029, the lead facilitator shall submit a written report to the education committees with the results of each study committee overseen by each facilitator employed or contracted by the BTLC, and information regarding whether, and if so, how the following issues impact or influence the final outcome of each study committee overseen by the facilitator, along with recommendations for legislative action needed to remove identified barriers to the formation of new union school districts. So how did these things impact study committee conversations? Differences in staffing costs and costs associated with moving from several different collectively bargained agreements to one collectively bargained agreement for applicable staff. Differences in operating structures, geographic and topographic barriers, enrollment patterns and projections, and anything else. Section 16. At the same time, on or before January 1st, 2029, AOE, in consultation with the study committees and the State Board of Education, is required to report back to the education committees with recommendations for SU boundary adjustments and seesaw boundary adjustments that take into account the new union districts formed pursuant to this act. AOE, in consultation with the study committees and the State Board. So the State Board retains in this bill the authority to change supervisory union boundaries. So absent any legislation, they could just do that on their own. But you all, as long as you keep seesaw membership in statute, are the only ones who can change seesaw membership. And we get into money, finally. Section 17, study committee reimbursement grants, seesaw executive director grants, reports, appropriations. So subsection A is the study committee reimbursement grant. So the Agency of Education shall pay up to $10,000 to a study committee formed pursuant to section 13 of this act to reimburse participating school districts for legal and other services necessary for the analysis and report required pursuant to current law and section 13. The study committee shall forward invoices to the agency on a quarterly basis, and the agency shall reimburse 1/2 of the total amount reflected in each set of invoices upon receipt, and the remaining 1/2 upon completion of the final report. Provided, however, that no payment shall cause the total amount of funds paid to a study committee to exceed the $10,000 limit. This language is lifted directly from Act 153 from 2010 that traveled along to Act 156 and to Act 46. And then there's an appropriation for $210,000 from the general fund to AOE for the purpose of awarding the study committee reimbursement grants. That is simply 10,000 times 21. You could have more study committees formed, you could have less study committees formed. Facilitator appropriation, and this is, I think, an area that needs some work. The sum of $442,000 is appropriated from the general fund to VTLC in fiscal year 27 for the purpose of hiring or contracting for 7 facilitators and 1 lead facilitator pursuant to section 13A of this act, as well as for administrative costs. VTLC may use up to $32,000 of the funds appropriated pursuant to the subsection for administrative costs. And then beginning on October 1st and every 3 months thereafter, VTLC is required to submit written quarterly reports to the appropriations committees, the education committees, and the money committees with a detailed accounting of the funds expended pursuant to the subsection. CSAW Executive Director Grant appropriation. You are going to, this bill gives CSAWs, in addition to the startup funds available under current law and then the bump of the extra $5,000. So 15, yep. This subsection also gives every CSAW $50,000 towards hiring their first executive director.
So there's the 15 grand, there's the districts kicking in if they vote to do so.
Oh, CSAW membership, CSAW bylaws may require membership dues, yes.
And then there's the 50,000.
Yes.
Not anticipating it's the executive director would take the job for $50,000.
I think it's towards the hiring of an executive director.
Right. But it's, yeah.
So AOE shall award a grant in the amount of $50,000 to each CSAW created to hire an executive director, provided, however, that VTLC is not eligible for a grant under the subsection because they already have an executive director. And the sum of $300,000 is appropriated from the general fund to AOE for the purpose of awarding those executive director grants, and that is simply 50,000 times 6. New reader assistance heading. 2025 acts and results number 73. Section 18 amends the effective date section of Act 73. It changes the contingencies for the foundation formula to take effect. I have not touched subsection E because I don't have the substantive knowledge to know how this contingency affects the substance of section 61A. So I am just highlighting the fact that this may be an area that you may want to look at.
61A.
Something to tax classifications. So this bill amends, it does 2 things. It changes the date and it changes the contingencies. So subsection F is where the subdivisions that contain, we can get there, all of the sections for the foundation formula live. So the sections enumerated in subdivision 2 of this subsection shall take effect on July 1, 2030, provided that the following conditions have been met. The clerk of each school district voting on the proposal to form a unified union school district on or before November 7, 2028, pursuant to legislation enacted by the General Assembly in 2026 that requires each school board to participate on a study committee to study the advisability of forming a unified union school district. You cannot refer to this act because you are amending a previous act. So I had to spell out what you're doing here. Has certified the results. So once the results of all of those union school district votes have been certified, that contingency has been met. Second contingency is the same as current law.
Can we go back to the first one? So Could there be clerks of school districts that are not voting on proposals to form a unified union school district?
Yeah, so the way this was intended to read, is that if there is a vote, then the clerk of those school districts, once they have certified the results of those votes, this contingency's been met. So if there are no votes,
If there's one vote,
and there's one vote, then this
there's only one vote and all the other districts don't.
decides to do nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's a voluntary process.
Okay.
Well, they have to come to the table. Second contingency is current law. The expert tasked with developing the cost factor foundation formula has to give you the 45A report. Third contingency is new. And I don't know what this says, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So this is a great area for you to spend some time.
Okay.
JFO has provided the legislature with an analysis that shows the combined approved fiscal 27 education spending for the school districts consolidated into each new school district compared with the estimated EOP under the revised proposed foundation formula for each district. And fourth contingency, legislation has been enacted that.
Sorry, I was thinking that I thought we were about to go to a sub.
No.
So, okay. That's why you paused to see what was gonna happen. Okay.
But,
Okay, provide an analysis. Thank you.
Yeah.
Onwards. Okay.
Fourth contingency, legislation has been enacted that addresses the following: suitable geographic measures for determining sparsity within the foundation formula, whether it costs more to educate a secondary student than an elementary student, and if so, an appropriate weight. How to account for the provision of CTE, how to account for regional differences in operating costs, how to fund special education, school construction, renovation and repayment of school district debt, transportation, and universal pre-K, and anything else you want.
Like that's 6 right there. Okay.
Those are it for the contingencies. There are other sections in the effective date section that had the same school district contingency, and so that language has been replaced with the vote certification language.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So we have to study and deliver all the study things, which are slightly expanded from the previous studying and delivering. It's important. I don't mean to minimize it. I'm just want to get to the rest of my question. There's a date certain, and including the date certain, there's a certification from some votes that might take place. Okay.
Yes, I mean,
Date certain is 2 years out from the original date certain.
is the date, so you mean the date that the foundation formula would take effect? Yes, it's 2
Okay.
years out,
Okay.
right? Because if school budget's timing.
Okay, thank you.
So that's it for effective dates in Act 73. New reader assistance heading, pre-K education. This language has 3 parts: findings.
Wait, before we go to this. We're just like shifting gears slightly, so I needed to get my brain all shifted. I don't know if anyone else needed to. Okay,
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
yeah, see, okay.
You said that the school district has to come to the table.
Yes.
It didn't say what happens if they don't come to the table.
There's no punishment or penalty if you refuse to participate. The law is silent on that. It just says you shall do this. You're gonna get a report back in February that would tell you who has refused to come to the table. Okay, pre-K. Everything under this reader assistance heading, there does 3 things. There's a finding section, there's an intent section, and there's a study section. So the findings, the General Assembly finds that despite being colloquially known as the universal pre-K program, not all children 3 and 4 years of age in the state have equal access to a pre-qualified pre-kindergarten provider. Vermont ranks second in the country with regard to access to pre-kindergarten education by children who are 4 years of age, with 76% of eligible 4-year-old children receiving pre-K education And then Vermont is one of 2 states in which more than 70% of children who are 4 years of age receive pre-kindergarten services. Only 11% of eligible children are enrolled in pre-K services in Essex County. There is considerable geographic disparity in the state with regard to the number of pre-K slots available, and as a result, 95% of eligible children in Windsor and Windham counties and 93% of eligible children in Chittenden County have access to a pre-qualified pre-kindergarten provider, as compared to 55% in Franklin County and 61% in Grand Isle County. And while a substantial portion of states provide a full school day of 4 or more hours of pre-kindergarten education daily, less than 5% of Vermont's pre-qualified pre-kindergarten providers provide a full day of 4 or more hours of pre-K education.
What full day means in that context?
Sure do not.
Your question.
That was my question too.
It's one of my favorite questions this year.
Could you say that again?
It's just what a full day means in that context. It's it's actually one of the funnest questions of the year.
I think what this language is trying to say is that a full school day is 4 or more hours. For purposes of this findings section. Legislative intent, section 20. It is the intent of the General Assembly to ensure that pre-K education is included as an integral part of Vermont's education system, as the right to education is fundamental for the success of Vermont's children in all grades, pre-K through 12. It's the intent of the General Assembly to determine a locus of responsibility to ensure there is access to pre-K within all school districts. It is the intent of the General Assembly to provide access to licensed teachers in the classroom of both pre-qualified public and private providers, including access to support and provisional status. And it is the intent of the General Assembly to equalize financial resources for all pre-qualified providers of pre-kindergarten education. Section 21 asks JFO to hire a contractor to make recommendations regarding how to account for the provision of pre-K within Vermont's education finance system, including the consideration of use of categorical aid or the inclusion of pre-K within a foundation formula through the use of a weight. The contractor's recommendations shall be designed to provide funding for pre-K education that supports achieving access for every pre-K child with equal payments and equal educational standards for public and private providers, ensures the cost of pre-K education is included in the full cost of education, increases access and participation in areas of the state where access or participation is limited, and continues to support a mixed delivery system. The recommendations from this contractor report should align with your 45A report, and the contractor for this report is required to submit a written report to you all on or before January 15th, and there's $50,000 appropriated to JFO to hire that contractor. And finally, the effective date for everything that I just said is July 1, 2026.
Do you want to show us the timeline, or would you rather have time to?
Oh, I think it needs to be updated. Let me see what condition it's in.
I'm sorry, I didn't give a moment for questions. Okay. Situation. Wow. And next week.
But that there's $50,000 allocated to a contractor, but the schools get much less than that to do the work that they're doing, and then they all have to contribute, and they're all having people working. And it just, I'm not saying it's about you, I'm just saying I'm frustrated because it's another thing we're asking them to do. And it doesn't look like it's really sufficiently funded for the time that people who are working to do this have to take away from their jobs that they're also trying to do. So.
I would love if you channeled your frustration into a plan / spreadsheet of how much you think would be sufficient to do the work that needs doing by the people who need doing. Thank you.
I'll see that. That's looking for this. It strikes me that when we got our presentation on pre-K, what was amazing was how little data we had so that we were actually unable to make informed decisions. And I'm just hoping that next week we can spend some time both with definitions, but also if we're actually gonna evaluate this, we're gonna have to specify some of the data collection, or we'll just be in the exact same place next year.
Okay, I have found the timeline. I can't promise you that it is 100% accurate, but it appears to be what we just walked through. With that caveat, do you want me to pull it up?
No. Or you can just, can you show us tomorrow?
Yes.
Great, thanks. We don't need to be more confused. Timelines are good for making people less confused. And I don't want to confuse you by having to correct it on the fly out loud.
I'm 97% sure this is accurate, but I don't.
Okay, then go for it. Look what you did to yourself. We were all gonna recess now, but no.
If it was a 95, we would have said no tomorrow. Sounds
It's
good.
true, actually, there's genuinely
Okay, so CSA formation. Board member appointments within 30 days of passage, first meeting of the CSA board within 45 days of passage.
We're gonna post this to our website, so you don't have to check for that if you don't want to.
Facilitator hire, October 1st, 2026. First study committee meeting and assignments, December 1st, 2026. AOE, so this date is wrong. It will be February 1st, 2027, the study committee status report to you all. Study committee final report is December 1, 2027. School board review of study committee report should be wrapped up by February 1st, 28. Secretary review should be wrapped up by April 1st, 28. State board should issue their findings by June 1st, 28. And the vote should occur on or before November 7th, 28. And then the final report to you all with the facilitators information would be January 1, 2029, and AOE's report with the suggestions for SU and CSA boundary suggestions would be January 1, 2029. And I will update that and send Sorsha a new draft.
Thank you much, Lee.
So, Beth, when we talked to Mount Abe yesterday, they talked about their process. It had a number to it, studying a merger with Virgins. And they said it was an 18-month process. So that's about a year, I think, right?
Correct.
Start to finish.
Correct.
So the committee talk about that. This is an accelerated timeline.
That's a great question for tomorrow, Charlie Kimball.
That's so good. I look
Okay,
forward to having that discussion tomorrow.
great.
After
Anyone-
thinking about it for a little bit.
Indeed. Does anyone have any technical clarifying questions for Beth before we all recess? Great. Thank you, everyone. Yes, Jim.
Compliment. It comes in two parts. One is the first half, shall we say, of the discussion of the formation and various other kinds of stuff. Seems to me we may end up with some disagreements. I find that well organized and happy to work with what we got from outside. The last part is really in your wheelhouse and not in mine. So any the technical stuff, and I'd say on my behalf, we rely on your expertise to get that right. And no point. Some people I know like to micromanage that stuff, and I certainly am not one of them. So I'm grateful for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for all the work today. We will see you tomorrow. We have the floor at 8:45 for a caucus of the whole. The caucus of the whole is about this bill from the education committee. I think it's very helpful for us all to be there and hear what questions our colleagues ask so that we can be thinking about them in this room. And then right after that, right, if folks can come here, we have the floor, we have the capital bill. If things go on for some reason after the capital bill, please come back to the committee. But if things wrap quickly after the capital bill, we'll just start right after the floor.
Before the Capitol bill, tomorrow's the last day for the pages.
Yes.
And perfect.
So we will clap muchly for the pages and then we'll have the capital bill and then we will come back here. Thank you. And we will wrap on the earlier side tomorrow afternoon, though we will likely meet on Monday
There will be some,
via Zoom.
there will be a lot of introductions